Esa enai el hearim, Esa enai el hearim, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri. When I die, give what's left of me away to my children and to those who wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give to them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known and loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, letting go of children that need to be free. For love doesn't die, but people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Amen. El Harachamano, sweet God, you have taken our beloved Laurie. Our friends grieve now in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation, in their tears there is loneliness. In sorrow may they find the presence today and in all the days to come of loving friends. Hear us, O God, be with us. For Laurie's love that united us in life, death cannot sever. Her companionship shared along life's path continues now through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that we miss so much, we give thanks to you, O God. In this time of our grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-needed message of your nearness, O God. Psalm 77. When I cry, my voice trembles with fear. When I call out, it cracks with anger. How to greet the dawn with song when darkness eclipses the rising sun? To whom shall I turn when the clouds of the present eclipse the rays of tomorrow? Turn me around to yesterday, that I be consoled by its memories. Were not the seas split asunder, did we not walk together through the waters? Did we not bless the bread that came forth from the heavens? Did your voice not reach our ears and direct our wanderings? The waters, the lightning, the thunder remind us of yesterday's triumphs. Today, let the past offer proof of tomorrow. Let it be our guarantor, our comforter. We have been here before, God, known the fright, and found your companionship. We enter your sanctuary again and await the echo of your promise. I invite you to join with me, if you wish, in the recitation of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Ata imadi, thou art with me. That faith of the psalmist is echoed today in the feelings of utter gratitude from Laurie Rose's family. For you, Ata imadi, you are with them. And with her, you should only know how much that means. At the conclusion of our service here today, Interment will follow at Mayfield Cemetery. Visitation will take place following interment until 9 p.m. today, and from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. tomorrow at Thornton House Condominiums, 3333 Warrensville Center Road in Shaker Heights. In lieu of flowers, the family invites you, if you wish, in Laurie's memory to donate a form of tzedakah, a gift of generosity, to the Norton W. and Jacqueline Rose Forever Fund at the Jewish Federation of Cleveland, or in honor of Laurie Rose to the Obesity Society at the address listed in the paper. They, of course, invite your continued memories, your gestures of condolence, your loving tributes, and today, above all, your best wishes for Laurie's Cleveland Browns. My teacher, Rabbi Richard Levy, wrote a prayer of gratitude that arises to my heart this morning. Thank you, for we are not alone, not abandoned in the world. We are persons, and so there must exist within the universe an acknowledgement of persons, a personal presence. We acknowledge in you, O God. We can feel secure here, protected. Each one of our imperfect lives, an irreplaceable piece of a holy world. Our lives, complex, are your caress. Our souls, beclouded, are your intimates. Miracles surround us every minute of an ordinary day. At every corner of a troubled night are signs of you. In you we find perfect mother love and father caring, which helps us to accept our own parents' imperfections and their irreplaceable humanity. Life, all life, its beauty, ugliness, tragedy, and delight, is the truth of your existence and its goodness. Thank you, God, for it all. For it all. These words express a very beautiful idea, don't you think? Whether we can be certain we embrace the author's total sense of gratitude for life's tragedies alongside its goodness, he conveys in these words the sense that ultimately we are not alone in this world. We are not alone. A personal presence, an irreplaceable humanity, intended for goodness, intended to make us more secure, is a part of our existence. For the family of Laurie Rose, gathered in sadness and shock, today, after the severity of being cut off from her voice, from her hopeful, loving, caring, empathetic nearness to them in every endeavor, they still gather ultimately grateful. They gather with you wistfully hoping that if God intended us to feel certain we were secure and protected, certain that this was a holy world, then Laurie, their sister, their mother, their aunt, their dear one, was one of those signs of God's nearness. I didn't get the blessing to know Laurie during her lifetime, but I hope that in the short time I've begun to spend with her family, I've absorbed a bit of her essence. Laurie was born November 13th, 1953, the oldest of what would be 4 children of her father, Norton, a legend in Cleveland business at Cole National and then at Progressive, a dad in whom she admired and invested so much, and her mom, Donna, with whom she had a difficult relationship growing up. But that was a mom she never gave up on, always dutifully tending to her with love and affection and loyalty. Laurie saw herself as the source of tenderness enough for everyone, for all of us. If you were important to one of her siblings, her kids, her spouses, if you were so much as someone who happened to like a post of theirs on Instagram or Facebook, she loved you. She didn't just like you, she loved you. She loved what you stood for and was interested in your interests. That's how she lived Growing up on the Shaker side of Fairmount Boulevard, not a block or two from Fairmount Temple, where I serve as rabbi, Laurie and her siblings carry many memories of our synagogue and the holidays and education they received there. They carried with them into their lives and roles as partner and parent and citizen and sibling a sense of Jewish values and culture, a pride in the investment each of their parents brought to traditions that brought family together. For Laurie especially, occasions in the life cycle, including happiness and joy of weddings, but honestly also occasions like this, where family was brought together for caring and support at funerals, any time that rituals or traditions could bring her around a couch or an easy chair, to be once again the magnet of stories and laughter, of memories, of hopes, of aspirations to express rather than regrets with which to burden others. She finished any conversation in person, on the phone, in an email, or in a note with her signature line, "That's all I know." This four-word phrase gave a smile to loved ones and friends during her lifetime. But now that she's died, perhaps we can hear in it both a sense of the self-reflective pride she had for what she knew, and also her great sense of humility for what she might not have known. That's all I know. Laurie's schooling taught her quite a lot. Proud graduate of Shaker Heights High School, she continued her learning at Pine Manor Junior College in Boston, continuing at Cleveland State, and ultimately graduating at the University of Wisconsin. Though travels for school and in the early part of her marriage took her for a short while out of this area, her heart and ultimately her series of lifelong friendships and investments were all born here in Cleveland. A lifelong Browns fan, born of great memories, having attended many Browns Sundays in the 60s, with siblings and cousins, seeing that one and only championship game in 1964. This made Laurie believe it could happen again. And indeed, though the Browns never have failed in the last 5 decades to depress us all, Laurie held out a special candle for them, for the Cavs, and for her boyfriend, LeBron James. Laurie delighted not just being in a city that had a championship for one of its teams. She was its greatest champion, cheerleader that any of us had in our lives. If you were a friend of Steve or Andrew, even a friend in trouble or facing a really tough time, she would do just what it took to show loyalty and love and affection the way a teammate would. A poet in Israel once conveyed in the following Hebrew words, "L'chol ish yesh shem," to each person there is a name. That poet, Zelda, tells us that we are not only given a name by our parents, we are given a name by our stature, our smile, our longings, our failings, our life, and our death. In a few moments, many of her family will approach this podium to share memories of the good name that Laurie earned during her way too narrow lifetime. Why? Because there is so much mutual admiration in this family circle. Chris and his Michelle remember being so impressed by Laurie's ability to settle people down, customers and clients and patients she'd encounter in her various work responsibilities, her work in travel and customer relations, her work at the clinic. She exuded that same sense of drawing people to peace that she tried to convey within family. Peter and his Deborah saw how much the priority for their sister and sister-in-law was on the needs everyone else had. She lamented that her loved ones didn't live closer to her now as adults. But that didn't stop her from conveying to them and to everyone how powerful her loving energy was, that it would extend across the miles of physical or emotional distance. Robert spoke to me yesterday so proud of the kind of relationship Laurie engendered with his and Allison's kids, especially the true simpatico bond Aunt Laurie had with her niece Maddie, with whom she developed such an intimate and caring bond. Robert will always regret his sister's human frailty, but at the same time admire her tremendous resilience to love you and look for the good in you, even if you weren't treating her with absolute affection. Andrew and his Emily marvel at Andrew's mom being able to convey more than one approach to the world at the very same time. She could both be a friendly and assertive voice to solve people's problems when she was the one receiving a call to ask for a favor, but she would also be a dogged and persistent advocate if she was the one calling on your behalf to get help for you. She could convey a dumb blonde routine, which no one who knew her really bought. But she didn't mind when the occasion suited itself if it allowed her to win something over for someone she loved. Steve and his new bride Tilda shared with me how much hope they draw from the fact that she was able to join them for their recent wedding out of state. Ever the organizer, she put her energies, as much as bride and groom would allow, to make sure things went absolutely well. Even as obesity and poor health in general might have slowed others in her tender condition from traveling for a wedding, it was Laurie's investment in deep and lifelong friends who knew the kind of devotion and special feelings she had always given to them. They simply rented a van in which Laurie could be comfortable, and they drove together, a group of girls, now women, all the way to Connecticut. They knew what Steve draws so much comfort from today, that at one point their relationship was much harder, but the opening that came with his engagement and wedding, the welcoming of another daughter, this was something over which both mother and son could transcend any conflict. Truly, Laurie should be proud of herself and the name she earned, even though she died at 62. She was never as good to herself as she was to others. She only ever pushed herself to beat back food addictions for occasions, for weddings, holidays, and such. Allison admitted to me with a smile and a tear that if Laurie had realized this day was coming now, she would have wanted to be in better condition. She'd have lost weight for the funeral. She'd have wanted others to see her, if only she could, as she saw others, in the brightest and most hopeful light. Gathering here on a mournful Sunday in late summer, I would only guess that supposing she had been here, with us, not just now, but a few months from now in November, to mark another birthday, another year, and more importantly, another chance for the Cavs to win, she would have already earned a champion designation, because she was a hopeful and blessed presence to her brothers, a bigger-than-life Jewish mom to Andrew and Steve, a doting aunt to Maddie, Max, Isaac, Joshua, Caleb, Braden, and Jada. As a rabbi at her family's temple, it is an honor for me to be a part of this process and help them to bring her to her final rest. She will lie later today in the same earth as her parents, as her beloved maternal grandmother, Mom Eva, and will receive today the respect and blessing she earned for a lifetime of devotion, caring, and goodness. Friends, we can learn a lot from her. This woman lived her life with great love, tender, merciful, compassionate love, loving knowledge of what we each wanted, and a sense of joy to which we might all aspire these days, weeks, and months to come. May her memory ever be a blessing. Amen. This time I'd like to invite Robert, Allison, and Maddie to join me here and share some memories.
The rabbi failed to mention that he actually can pull the files on Laurie and me from Fairmont Temple, which I will follow up on. Maybe we will put that on YouTube. It will be quite entertaining. Laurie, I really want this eulogy to make you proud. But I have a big problem. Without you, my historian, myancestry.com, I just lack many of the details needed to paint a complete picture. God gave you the gift of an encyclopedic mind and the charisma to turn mundane reality into brilliantly funny stories. I'm way more high concept, so I'll do my best. You always watched over me with your sweet and incredibly instinctive nurturing skills. I just wished I'd given you 10% of what you gave me back in emotional support. It had nothing to do with loving you. I was just silent. I do know we had a ton of fun. We had a crazy and cool mom who let you run wild. You fought with her. She just never understood this fact. Just because you were 5'10", you weren't genetically designed or the least bit interested in becoming a runway model. We had a devoted father who did his best to make our 8-hour weekly Sunday visitations fruitful. Putt-putt, bowling, movies, and of course, a great dinner at Elsner's. If budgets were tight, we went to Arby's. We did this unique era of our lives together, and it bonded us. How lucky were we that Dad brought us to every Browns game, and we sat on the 50-yard line for the 1964 championship game together. We flew south for great vacations in Miami Beach. Where else do you go from Cleveland? I won a twist dance contest at the Americana Hotel. I think you were proud of me, not sure. We watched the Supremes. Yes, the Supremes at Eaton Rock, I believe. Diana Ross, before she was, well, Diana Ross. That was spectacular. We took the Rapid for teeth cleanings at a downtown dentist, Dr. Rocker. He was talented, for sure, but how many Shaker Heights kids had to take the Rapid by themselves to the Terminal Tower and walk a few blocks to their dentist? Plus, Mom consistently made sure we were at least 45 minutes late to almost every appointment we ever had. In fact, she locked us out of the house all the time, inadvertently, driving Dad crazy. As irony would have it, he made key blanks for a living. We cherished our dinners with many traditional families, the Bayers, the Siegels, the Glassmans, and of course, our favorite Thanksgiving dinner with Aunt Joni and Uncle Larry. Our Sunday brunches with Mom Eva and Abby were simply priceless. Their apartment was your refuge. We did sleep over there too. Oddly, they let you smoke cigarettes with them. Kind of crazy that Mom, Abe, Eva, and you smoked, and I just had to breathe that lovely air. It's amazing I did a marathon, or 5 of them actually. We loved TV. We watched what is now called primetime together every night. Bewitched was my favorite show, maybe yours too. Elizabeth Montgomery twitched her little nose and solved all problems on the spot. How poignant is that? Wish we could have done the same. I also know we both embraced how much Mom loved to get out and party. In an appropriate sense, I think. Leaving us alone on Friday and Saturday nights. No babysitter, just our friends and us. Now, allow me to get to the serious side of this eulogy. I want to make 2 points. First, let's clear up one issue. I know you think I was the favored child in Mom's eyes. You know what? I was. I was the favored child because I could strategically choose my path, avoiding your trailblazing mistakes. I was able to go left if you crashed turning right, so to speak. I wasn't repeating those mistakes. But make no mistake, you did the heavy lifting for me, made my life easier. Maybe I had a bit of Ferris Bueller in me and got lucky. Maybe I had lived on the same edge that you did many times, but just got caught less frequently. Though in crunch time, you were so loyal to me. You covered for me many times. Thank you. If you had not set the tone for me properly on my college visit with Gary Weiss to the University of Wisconsin that crazy weekend, I'm not sure I would have followed you there. Now, on to my final point, the most important message everyone in this room knows very well, the legacy of Laurie Rose. For context, in 9 out of 10 conversations we had on the phone, you would specifically mention either Mom or Dad or Abe or Mom Eva. For example, what would Dad be saying about the Cavs? Don't you think Mom would go crazy spoiling Maddie and Max? Do you think Mom Eva knows you're making her lox, eggs, and onions recipe? Do you think Abe was a big partier? Nothing is more important to you than your family. As we put your body to rest, which it so badly needs, I believe your soul has risen back into their world. After all these years, they will be so impressed. You have a fresh start. They will find a soul which is really strong, loyal, and beautiful. A soul enriched with incredible love for others. You ultimately flushed out all that sadness and bitterness. You drowned out the noise of seeing your father leave you at a delicate age. You recovered from seeing your husband leave a week after their second son was born, shaping 2 really excellent and grounded boys. You ultimately only saw the good side of our brilliantly creative mom, but a woman with unrealistic expectations. You finally came to terms with finding a healthy balance as you competed for the love and affection of Dad. My girl Laurie is here. That's exactly what my mom is saying right now. As you now sit with Mom, Dad, Mom Eva, Abe, trust me, they will be blown away by your maturity. You left a legacy as brilliant as it is simple. Both Maddie and Max identified your legacy. In their notes to you this week, you taught them the meaning of unconditional love. And you know what? You adopted that philosophy from Mom Eva, your idol, your goddess. Using your own words, as written Mother's Day 2015 on Facebook. My father said Mom Eva spoiled my brother and me. I say she loved us. God, do I miss her. She was the only woman in the world to give me love unconditionally. So now it is time to share my daughter and Allison and a few of their points with all of her friends. They have a lot to say. I know you loved and admired Maddie, who grew up loving her Aunt Allie. Her mom Allie, Aunt Laurie. And I know Max did the same. Both of them have embraced your legacy. We miss you, but we feel you everywhere, every day. I feel so blessed in looking back at all of this that we shared some really final, amazing laughs with your close friends at Steve's wedding. I'm going to ask Allison to speak first.
Laurie is the only person I know who looked forward to planning her own intervention. What a great idea, she told me when I asked her if this is what it would take to get her healthy. And isn't this what we loved about her? Everything had a bright side. Even the idea of an intervention could be an event where she could see people and talk. I challenge anyone here to stand if they've never had a vice or a fear so great that it has prevented you from living in some way the fullest life you could live. Fear of elevators, fear of heights, fear of flying. We all have them, and we all deal with them in our own individual ways. So let's challenge ourselves, not to judge people of their weaknesses. Let's choose instead to love them for the qualities, their good parts, the parts that make us smile when we think of them. Laurie made loving look easy. She loved with a heart so big that it hurt. Unequivocal love. If we learn one lesson from her, let's learn to love with this abandon. The word namaste represents the belief that there is a divine spark within each of us. When you bow to someone and say namaste, you are bowing to the acknowledgement of that divine spark. Let's celebrate her spark. Namaste, Laurie. I will miss your spark. I will miss your brilliant mind, your quick wit, and your wonderful zings. That's all I know. My daughter, Maddie Rose.
I think my dad might be right. It might be easier to be the younger sibling. I studied abroad in one city. My brother is on semester at sea, exploring the world, which is why he can't be here today. Lucky him. But I know he wanted to be here, so I'm going to read a note from him first. First of all, I love you so, so much. You have always been a rock for not only me, but the entire family. Anytime I would call you, I knew that you would always be there for me, good or bad. Your strength and dedication to our family throughout my life was quite impressive. You were always such a leader in the family and would always know how to cheer anyone up with the occasional Facebook comment or post. The day you posted this quote, which was referenced in this Facebook post. After reflecting on this, I have realized that you were always that kind of person. I am so sorry I won't be able to be with you this weekend, but I know that you would want me to be where I am. Rest easy, Annie Laurie. I love you so much. For the record, I'm reading this off of an iPhone, which I think Laurie might have appreciated in 2016. But aside from that, good morning. My name is Maddie Rose. I'm Laurie's niece, Bob's daughter, and Norton and Donna's granddaughter. I've always been told, often by Laurie, how much my grandma Donna and I would have gotten along. It's impossible to get out of a conversation with any Rose without hearing how inspirational Donna was, how she was a force to be reckoned with, a Cleveland icon of her time, admired by all, many of whom I'm sure are in this room right now. I never knew Donna, and her placement as an icon in my imagination is how I'll forever envision her in my mind. Nobody is perfect, but if there's one thing I've gotten from my relatives about Donna, it's always the same. She would have loved you so much. That's a pretty comforting feeling. And as different as Laura and Donna may have been, I still can't escape the idea that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, that a semblance of Donna's charismatic chutzpah carried through Laurie's veins in what manifested as an utmost passion for her family, her city, and her friends. I feel honored to have known someone as gracious, loving, and endearing as my Auntie Laurie, someone I know the majority of the people in this room have probably spoken with within the past month, week, or even 5 days. Until her final hour, Laurie was giving love the best way she knew how. Lots of likes and even more hearts. Facebook users, you know what I mean. For as long as I've known her, and especially this past summer, Laurie was nothing short of generous. She gifted me a set of personalized stationery for my new home, something she only knew about from a brief email I sent out to my relatives. In August, she went out of her way to treat my mom and 10 non-Rose relatives to a birthday lunch in California, something she knew she would never attend. Just recently, she called me out of the blue just to say hello, obviously curious about any life updates she already knew about, asking who I might be dating, and dropping funny lines like, "Oh, sweetie, you think you party in New Orleans? You should have seen what I got into in the 70s. Man, was I bad." I truly believe that my Annie Laurie's joie de vivre, so to speak, was making those around her feel entertained, full of energy, and unconditionally loved. Living vicariously through each of us seems to be a common theme when discussing Laurie. But we now know that's something that she will always do. I said this online the other day, and I'll say it again now. Laurie, if you now exist in a realm that allows you to oversee all of the actions of your closest people, Mazel Tov. I know that's all you've ever wanted. Like you've said, us Rose Girls need to look out for one another, and I know you're doing just that. So today, let's celebrate the woman who has always celebrated us all for her authentic self, her commitment to communication, and her deep love to everybody that she knew. Today, I'm honored to pass the legacy of one of the greatest Rose women I have ever known. I can honestly say that it is with great privilege, sadness, and sincerity that I now bear the torch to tell future Rose generations, it's not even a would've. She loves you so much.
I'd like to call Peter up to share some memories.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming today. It means the world to our entire family that you're here to celebrate with us and to remember our beloved sister, mother, and aunt, Laurie. There's no truth to the rumor that the first unlimited minutes phone plan was developed after an argument between our dad, Norton, and our sister following his receipt of her first phone bill at Pine Manor College in the fall of 1971. But whatever actually took place during that tete-a-tete between father and daughter, the fact that it was necessary in the first place tells you who Laurie Rose was. Yet, Shirley hinted at some of the challenges that Laurie would have with respect to the notion of staying disciplined. But more than that, it was a strong indication of just how much Laurie loved to stay connected to others. This would manifest itself over the next 45 years with her customers as a long-time successful travel agent, with her patients as a tireless advocate at the Cleveland Clinic, and most of all, with her friends and family. Laurie was a people person through and through, and regularly put others' needs ahead of her own, often to her own detriment. Laurie would be disappointed today if I overstated her many qualities or if I understated her shortcomings. I will not canonize her. She would not want that, and she was the first person to admit that many of the challenges that she faced in her nearly 63 years on this earth were her responsibility. But I think it's important today to reflect on who she was at her core and what we should remember about her as we move forward without our cherished friend, sister, aunt, and mother. She was funny. She was self-deprecating, sometimes to a fault. She was an impassioned Browns, Indians, and Cavs fan, as you've already heard and as you well know. She was immensely loyal to her city, to her friends and coworkers, to her parents, to her brothers, and most of all to her two shining lights, Stephen and Andrew. She was smart, even though she often voluntarily took a back seat to others by proclaiming that they probably knew more about something than she did. And man, nobody knew more about how to work the system than she did. Her ability to navigate the complexities of the healthcare system, certainly for her patients at the clinic, and most importantly to me, for our father in the later stages of his life, was unparalleled. She was, at her core, here to serve others. She won awards for her service at work. I wish she could have been awarded more in her real life. Her love of her family knew no bounds. Despite not seeing her nieces and nephews often, all lived out of town. Our trips to Cleveland were limited. She adored them all and longed for connection with them. In every phone conversation I had with her, she needed to know what was going on with my kids, all of whom had special Laurie pet names. Isaac was the I-Man. Caleb was my pal Cal. And Jada, of course, was the princess. Electronic connection became her lifeblood as she kept pace with every picture I sent her, every social media post, every video of a kid playing baseball or softball, every concert that was streamed on the web. Without fail, Laurie was the first person to like any of my Instagram or Facebook posts, and in true Rose fashion, she was sure to have a comment on each and every one. What will stay with me the longest, however, was her never-ending love for Stephen and Andrew. Boys, she was incredibly proud of each of you and so happy that she knew that you had both found the loves of your lives. Stephen, for your mom to be present for your wedding this spring at what became the ultimate moment of reconciliation between the two of you made all of our hearts extra joyful. Andrew, your mom always asked me to keep an eye on you at work and make sure you were okay. She was nothing if not overprotective, right? But I think it gave her great pride to know that I didn't really need to keep an eye on you. Your tremendous success at the Futures Company has nothing to do with whose nephew you are, and everything to do with your immense talent and your dedication to your craft. Tilda and Emily, she was so thrilled to have you as daughters, to know that her boys were being taken care of, and most importantly, that they're happy. I'll close with one last story. Laurie was never much for public speaking. I think she felt overshadowed by an MC-like father whose War and Peace-like toasts were the stuff of legend in Cleveland, and by brothers whose daily craft includes client presentations and hosting sports talk shows. But when she had a chance to speak on behalf of the people she loved the most, Laurie thrived in the public arena. Whether it was at Dad's 80th birthday party in 2008, at his funeral in 2012, or most recently at Steve and Tilda's wedding, it was Laurie's talk more than anything that stole the show. For someone who proclaimed to be nervous and unskilled at delivering speeches, Laurie's talks, which of course were always from the heart and honest and loving, captured the room. Those of you not at Stephen and Tilda's wedding missed the story of a lifetime, as she spoke of coming home for the first time with her newborn Stephen, seeking guidance from my mom, her stepmom, Jackie, on what the heck to do now. When they agreed that maybe Laurie should change Stephen's diaper, within a matter of seconds, Laurie was in an absolute panic because her baby boy was clearly feverish and sweating. With the wedding crowd hanging on every word, Laurie related how my mom calmly pointed out that Stephen was soaking wet because he had just peed all over himself. Her combination of self-deprecation, never-ending love, and comedic timing was never more present. I loved my sister deeply, and knowing that our regular check-ins on each other, on the nephews and niece she adored, on Cleveland sports teams, even on the upcoming election or no more, is a devastating blow. But knowing how much everyone in this room loved her and how much she loved all of us will be of enormous comfort in the coming days. I love you, Laura.
Chris.
Hi, Wheezy. That was my nickname before. And it's how I would start every phone conversation with her over the last 30 plus years. And she would say, "Hi, my baby brother." And even though I'm now 45, I loved hearing that. I'm going to be the first to admit that sometimes I displayed that Norton Rose impatience gene with Laurie on the phone, and she would remind me, "You sound just like Norty Rose. You talk that way." And that would make me smile and would calm me down, and we would be able to carry on our conversation. And Laurie, I want to give you credit today, because you so rarely accepted it from from people. You were incredibly bright, smart as a whip, and you'd usually ask, what does smart as a whip mean? You knew exactly what it meant. And in a society that reeks of negativity and snarkiness, and some of us have made a career around it, you taught us how to love unconditionally. And believe me, Laurie Rose had every reason in the world to be bitter at times. She got dealt 7-deuce offsuit more than once during her life, and she played it like she had pocket aces. She was always happy, very little woe is me. When that 216 area code would appear on our caller ID, Laurie would only want to know what was happening in our household. Pick up the phone. How are things in Cleveland? No, how's Josh's guitar? So how are you feeling? No. Brady's baseball. I saw him made the all-star team again. How's he doing? She would love seeing the pictures that Michelle would post to the boys on Facebook, because we all know Laurie could maneuver around social media better than any teenage girl out there. I'm thankful because Michelle and Laurie weren't sisters-in-law. They were just sisters, usually bonding over the pleasures and perils of raising 2 boys. Speaking of those boys, Stephen and Andrew, you were the lights of her life. Stephen, the waters weren't always smooth with you guys, but both of you decided forgiveness would pave the way to a repaired relationship, and that's exactly what happened. Thank you for your bravery and the way that you handled that. You know, so many times your mom would call in those few years that you weren't together, and she would say, I just want Stephen to be happy. Well, Laurie, Stephen is. He's found a wonderful woman in Tilda that you simply adore. And the fact that Laurie made it to your wedding is a memory she cherished more than anything. And Tilda, thank you for supporting and loving our nephew the way that you do. I know it meant more than anything to my sister. Andrew, you know the deal. Your mom was amazed with your accomplishments. Caddy extraordinaire, Evans scholar, dude about town in Chicago. Your bond was unbreakable, and all mothers should have sons who exude warmth and love the way that you did. Andrew, you might not be able to speak to your best friend anymore, but you will relive those moments you shared in your mental Rolodex. And Emily, when you stepped to the forefront following Andrew's bachelor party accident in Indianapolis, you showed my sister something. That Andrew had indeed found the woman of his dreams, one that would complement him perfectly the rest of your lives. In fact, Laurie just told Michelle on Monday how much she loved you and connected with you during your recent Labor Day visit. And believe me, Laurie will be with us when you officially become part of the family in July. Of course, there's still time to back out and run for the hills if you'd like. And then, of course, there was the sports side of Laurie Rose. Now, you would think that maybe it wasn't all that easy being the only girl in a sports-crazed all-boy household. She was just as nutty as the rest of us, but in a very sweet and kind way. You know, it's been more than 30 years since she uttered the famous phrase in our household on one fall Sunday that Tony Dorsett has been, is, and always will be the greatest in NFL history. I never had the heart to dispute that. Laurie loved Bernie Kosar's awkwardness, Michael Strahan's gap-toothed smile. She was so kind, Laurie probably would have let her kids ring Albert Bell's doorbell during Halloween. And I can't tell you how many times she would say, I just love that LeBron James fellow. Chrissy, he seems like such a nice young man. I would say, Wheeze, I don't care as long as he's putting up a stat line at 33, 8, and 7 in the NBA Finals. He can go lock the dog outside for a week for all I care. But that was Laurie at her core, spreading positive thoughts even to a worldwide superstar that doesn't really need it. Laurie, even though you might not believe it, I will miss our conversations. I will miss everything about you. Laurie, all you ever wanted was to share your love and be loved. Well, Laurie, you did, and you were. I love you forever, Wheezy, and that is all I know.
Family has asked me to call on lifelong friend Cindy Grabiner to share some memories.
Hello. This is kind of a crazy request, but a couple months ago, Laurie said, Cindy, you're speaking at my funeral. She didn't ask me, she told me. She said, you're speaking at my funeral. I said, Laurie, all right, but could we just not make it too soon? And she kind of took me by shock by having me do this now. But just something about Laurie and me, we share two things that, I don't know, maybe one thing you all share with me, but one thing is we were birthday twins. We shared a birthday. And the other was we both love the gift of gab and talking on the phone. And nowadays, you know, with everyone texting and Skyping, a lot of people really don't want to be bothered on the phone, but Laurie and I loved the phone. And this would be a typical day. Every morning at 8 o'clock, I'd call Laurie and say, morning, and she'd say, can I call you back? Marquita's here. That was her nurse. So I said, okay. Then I'd call her at 1. I'd say, hi. I said, Laurie, you all right? You saw her pain in your voice. She said, I didn't sleep well last night. She said, let me call you back. I said, okay. So then about 10:30, I get a text. Yup, call me. So Laurie and I would talk and talk and talk and talk. And then about 12:30, I say, Laurie, I gotta go to sleep. And she'd say, that's okay, because there's Peter on the line, or there's Chris. You know, her brothers would call her later because they were on West Coast time. So, I mean, and, you know, Marcy Wiseman, Barbara Frisch. So, like, I was good from 10 to 12:30, but then she was probably on the phone for the next 4 hours. And my dad would always say to me, honey, what could you possibly talk to Laurie about every single night? And I said, well, Dad, first of all, if there was nothing to talk about, Laurie could always tell me about something that happened in the past. Because, like Cindy Allison would say, not only did she remember everything, but she could tell you what her homeroom number was at Byron. I mean, no details were left behind with Laurie. And another thing was Laurie was my personal Siri. I used to call her my Siri. Because whenever I needed anything or I didn't know anything, Laurie was on it, right, guys? I mean, that's Laurie. I was driving to Chautauqua and I forgot to get fried rice for my brother-in-law, and I was bringing dinner up. So I call up Laurie. I go, Laurie, where's there a Chinese restaurant between here and Chautauqua? So sure enough, Laurie looks it up. She goes, Erie, 1002 Erie Avenue. I go, got it. Thanks, Laura. I mean, that was Laurie. The other thing that Laurie was fantastic was about she missed her calling. She should have been a doctor. Because whenever anything went wrong and I'd describe a symptom, or she'd say, oh, that's blah, 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 and it'd be some medical term. I go, how the heck do you know all this stuff? And she said, well, I worked for a doctor's office for years, you know, so that made her like a doctor. So anyway, I'm just going to end it. My mom said, Cindy, don't talk too long and don't ramble, because people hate that at funerals. So, Mom, I'm sorry if I rambled a little bit, but, you know, she's watching us because this is being streamed, and Mom and Marcy and all her friends who couldn't be here are listening to this. But I just want to end on this note, as a lot of people came up to me and said, you were such a good friend of Laurie, and she was so lucky to have you. Well, you know what? The truth is, I was the lucky one. And I was lucky to have Laurie as my friend. And so, Laurie, I hope you're liking this up above. And you asked me to speak at your funeral, and God damn it, I did it. And I'm speaking on behalf of all of our close friends who are all over here. We love you very much, and our life just won't be the same without you.
Steve?
It's not easy going after the rest of the family in speeches, as some of you guys probably know. Mom, I was not planning on delivering this anytime soon. In fact, I wanted to be doing this at a time when my son or daughter is as old as I am now. But I am delivering it now, and in Rose Kowalik fashion, I will try to make this speech as witty and as competitive as possible with my brother's and your brother's speeches. We all know that your father is listening upstairs too and is reaching for the microphone. The reality is, there's nothing that I could possibly put on paper that would do your memory the justice that it deserves. While combing through your Instagram photos the other night, I came upon a quote you posted that said, "I wish I could hug my dad one more time. Mom, I wish I could hug you one more time. And I wish I could erase the last 4 days and tell you that I love you one last time." The saying, "You don't know what you got until it's gone," couldn't be any more true than it is right now. I always appreciated you, but with you no longer around, it's beginning to hit home just how much you truly meant to me. I wish I called you more. I wish I picked up your calls more. 2 of the many wishes in the I wish pile. Please know I love you very much, and words cannot express how much you mean to me. As you probably know, my mom and I had our issues. I was far from the perfect child for the more than perfect mother. I would go on about the hell I raised at times, but you could probably gather the information far more quickly from the Shaker police blotter. How you put up with me at times is something that I cannot fathom. Mom, you had your issues, but what makes you the remarkable individual you are was your ability to help everyone else despite what you had on your plate. I could spend hours talking about how much of a people person you were and your sense of humor, but I think the big quality that everyone should hear today, and I think a lot of other people are expressing it, is how selfless you were. You always gave more than what you had. When your bank account said $19, you gave us $20. Literally, I remember sitting on your bed with Andrew playing a board game and you giving me $20 to the Papa John's delivery guy. It was never about what you made, it was about what you gave. I remember these childhood moments vividly because you made us just as happy during a night of sitting around watching TV as you did during our vacations. Another one of your giving instances in my life that I recall was when I was really in outer space and wanted a space-themed birthday party. You not only got me the coolest space cake in the world, but you capped it off with the rocket car that used to be a ride at Euclid Beach. I wish you knew how cool you were. Everyone else did. You helped others that were overcoming addictions amidst your own personal battles with addiction. A lifelong friend of ours was fighting a very long drug battle. They were living in an abandoned warehouse and using. They called you once for money. You drove in to pick them up from a rough area in Cleveland. Instead of giving them money, you took them out to eat and helped encourage them to get into a recovery program. You were one of the catalysts for where they are today. For lack of a better word, you saved their life. I only heard about this story fairly recently, and I'm sure this is the first time most of you have heard it. These are the stories that make legends. I recall you paying for a complete stranger's Starbucks coffee that was in line behind you simply because you wanted to pay it forward. In New York, we call that insanity. To those who don't know, our mother had the most ridiculous latte order of all time. I remember going to the Starbucks at Van Aken Center and placing an order for her, and the order was met with the response, "This is for Laurie, right?" You gave to those you did not even know. Random acts of kindness were not random to you. They were a part of your everyday existence. More recently, you made it to our wedding, even when your body said no, but your resilience said yes. You and your crew making the 9 to 10 hour drive to New Haven meant the world to us. I cannot imagine the amount of physical pain that the trip brought on. However, I know it was one of the happiest weekends of your life. I wish that I could have made all of your weekends that happy. You took on double duty as a parent from the time I was 3 years old and Andrew 3 months old, and did so with nothing but dignity and grace. You are a single mother warrior, and in my book as much of a hero as some of our war veterans. There were many speed bumps along the way, but you did everything you could to make sure that Andrew and I were taken care of. After watching my sister and brother-in-law raise a baby for the past year, I cannot imagine what it was like dealing with 2 goofballs all alone. By the way, baby Izzy turned 1 a couple of days ago. We could send you pictures. I know how happy she made you. Izzy loved posing for you. These are just top-of-mind examples of how compassionate and amazing of a woman Laurie Rose was. I'm sure many more will come up as I think about you every day for the rest of my life. I know you are resting easy knowing that we reconciled a few years back and became close again. My brother and I are now good friends, and we both met the women of our dreams. I do not think I would have landed Tilda if it were not for the character that you instilled in me. She misses you like crazy, and your grandchildren will meet you through us. The world lost a lot of love on Wednesday, but what the world lost, one can only hope heaven gained. My mother was nothing but love. Beneath the struggle, every demon she was battling, and the pain from anyone that hurt her, myself included at times, was an angel. I know she would be so happy seeing you all in front of her right now. Laurie Rose clearly holds a special place in all of your hearts, and you hold a special place in hers. Life does go on, so all I ask is that when you go on your journeys, you continue to give one another the love that my mom gave to the world. Mom, I know you are resting peacefully and looking over all of us. I love you and can't wait to see you again when all is said and done.
Batting ninth for the Indians.
Although this is the toughest thing I'll ever have to do, I know how proud you are. I also know if I can't handle this, you'll be okay with the rabbi finishing up. You loved me unconditionally. I miss you way more than any little eulogy could speak to. But I know you're here forever and ever. Ever since January 16th, 1989, after calling your brother Chris and waking him up on his MLK day off from school, one thing has remained consistent. Our relationship was special, Mom. No matter the day, time of day, the year, the season, whatever, I could call you and know that I would have 2 ears listening. I don't think anybody can sum up any relationship in one word, but we can. Our relationship was special. That's what it was. You taught me and probably a lot of other people more than any book ever could. You always joked that said I didn't read enough, or I didn't read as much as Steve or you. Well, I didn't really need to because I talked to you every day. Saying I love you at the end of every phone call was something you taught me, and it's crucial. And we would talk 10 times a day. You would say it every time, and I would say it back, but we meant it every time. You would call, hey, honey, just calling to see what's doing. This should be 10 a.m. We had spoke at 7:15 in the morning. Have you talked to anybody? Have you talked to the brothers? How are Steve and Tilda? No. Probably the same as they were when you spoke to them 20 minutes ago. What else is doing? What else do you know? She just wanted to talk to us. Didn't matter, even though she knew the answer. She just wanted to talk to us. Well, I've talked to everybody, and we're all here grieving, but celebrating together for you. We all know you would have loved this. I mean, the last few days of social media, everybody here, we know you would have loved this. We just do. You taught me so much. I will forever remember the 27 years I spent with you. Every minute, every phone call, every Facebook comment, even as some of them could have been a personal text. Every Instagram post, every memory. I loved my trips home to Cleveland. It would be great spending days with you. Every time I would kiss you goodbye and say how much I love you, and I would know that we would likely speak 2 to 3 more times between Shaker and Hopkins Airport. But that was fine. That's what I loved. How strange that Emily and I were here a few days ago. But that was the best trip I think I've had in a long time here, and it's amazing. You spent hours with Emily a couple different times while I was out seeing friends or whatever I was doing. You shared stories. You just enjoyed each other's company, and she loves you very much. And we all know how much you love her and Tilda back. I mean, everybody knows that. By now, we would be getting to the part of our call where you may start saying, "What else do you know?" Really just your way of wanting to stay on the phone, and that's fine. We would usually go off on some tangent, so here we go. We would usually, you and I would talk politics. You would always bring it up, and I say that because I checked your mail 2 days ago, and I found your absentee ballot, which in this state is worth a lot of money. I immediately thought to myself, how sad I am for you only, that, you will not get to see Hillary become president. You made calls, for those of you who don't know, she was making phone calls for the Hillary campaign only a few weeks ago. But on the other side of things, if the other man gets elected, I'm thrilled that you are not going to see that. Based on our phone calls. I'm not with her, but I'm with my mom forever. A colleague of mine from 2014 sends her best. I didn't even have her number saved. And I quote, "Hi, Andrew. I saw your Facebook post. I'm heartbroken for you and your family. I know how close you were with your mom. I'll remember her sending fun packages to the office and including treats for all of us. What a gem. I'm so sorry. Sending you hugs. Hope you find comfort in spending time with her in Cleveland and your family. Hang in there." My CEO appreciated every single one of your personal emails to him, asking how I was doing, if I was... It was likely less about my performance at work, probably more about my respect and was I behaving. You are a Hall of Famer, and you're nothing less than your favorite athlete, LeBron. You taught me how to love. You taught all of us how to love unconditionally, to let the small things and more often than not the big things go. You taught me to respect everybody, to listen, and to help. All of that is probably the 95% of the reason I'm so successful today in my career. You cared about every single person first before thinking about yourself. Even with your minimal resources, you made things happen and took care of us all. I never had to worry if I needed something, ever. And if I didn't want your help, you would help. And I would get a surprise email an hour later, "It's taken care of, honey." And then text me or call me. You're an amazing, loving, caring, brilliant, loyal person. You're selfless. We can go on for years about this. But I don't want to speak longer than Grandpa would have. I will end it with this. You are all in Cleve. And we are all in Laurie. It's time to relax. I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my mother you'll be. Rest easy, I love you. And a P.S., about that rest easy thing, don't watch a minute of any Browns game this entire season.
We can all learn a lot today. I invite you now, if you are able, to please rise. אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, חמצי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה. אם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזכירים את נשמת לורי בת נותן ודנה שהלכה לעולמה. בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant easy rest now in your sheltering presence to our beloved Laurie. She has entered eternity. God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance, and she is God's now. May she rest always in peace. Amen.